Hello friends, I'm Brian, and this is Gizmo Board Games. Today I am continuing my top 50 favorite games of all time countdown. Last week, hopefully, you saw numbers 50 to 31, and here I'm going to pick up with the next 20 games right in the middle, numbers 30 to 11, and then finally, on the 28th of February, my 3-year anniversary of this channel, I'll bring you some good games finally in my top 10 favorite games of all time. I mentioned in the last video that I did use Pub Meeple to kind of pick this game over that game, or this game over that game like 1,000 times, and arrived at this top 50. I jumbled a little bit around to kind of put things where I felt better about after they spat out the list. A lot of that occurred kind of at the back end of the list from last week. And pretty much from here on out, everything stays pretty much intact with where it was after I pushed all those buttons a bunch of times. Another thing about this section of the list, just looking at it real quick, there are only 3 new games on the list. I think I mentioned last video, there are 11 total new games that weren't on the list last year. And so only 3 of them are on this part of the list. I think there were 5 or 6 on the last part, and then only 2 coming up in the top 10. But I'm rambling. Let's go ahead and get into this. It's going to be a long enough video as it is. Anyway, number 30, favorite game to me as of early 2025 is a new to me game. The first of 3 new on this part of the list, Dune Imperium Uprising. Basically, it's Dune Imperium. The movie, the show, the book, I don't know. I never saw it, got into it. Not really my intellectual property preference, whatever. It's okay. I don't know much about it. And the game Dune Uprising, or Dune Imperium, my bad, is the original one. Then they added some expansions to it. And then they decided, let's re-release it with everything in it already as Dune Imperium Uprising. And that's the version I've played that my friend owns. So I don't know the differences between the base game and, what's different here. All I know is in Dune Imperium Uprising, you're using basically deck building. You're going to play from your hand of cards down, and based on the icons on those cards, you're going to be able to place the workers out on the board and do certain actions. But it's a tight economy of resources because some places you can't go to unless you can pay for them with the resources. So it really is the balance of what actions do I want to take and how do I get to the point of taking that action. So what preliminary actions do I need to do? All the while you've got to have the right cards in hand to go to the spaces, and you're racing your opponents each round because, once somebody goes to a space, you can't go there unless you've got a spy out. And I do know that's new to the Uprising version of the game, is the spies, where you can kind of double down on spots if you've got those spies out. And so it's all just this unique balance during the action phase, and then all that culminates with the combat phase, where the rest of your cards can be used to increase your combat points, assuming you've got troops into that combat, because otherwise you're not going to. And that combat is going to help you win different areas, so you can get more actions when people go to those areas. But more importantly, if you win 2 combats of the same type, that'll get you a point. In this game, in the end, is a race to 10 points. And there's just a lot that goes into getting 10 points in this game. And it's a really enjoyable game. I've enjoyed it more as I've played it more. And it sits at number 30 and maybe continues to climb as I play it more. My number 29 was number 10 last year. So it's fallen 19 spots, but it's about to make an increase again. I'm sure of it later this year when I get my hands on the expansion with the official solo mode in it, and that is Clans of Caledonia. I just have really liked this game. It's my favorite, I think, direct economy game, where you're buying low and selling high, and you're using the market against your opponents, but also you're racing around to spots on the board. And it's another one of those tight action economies, because once you're out of money, you're not taking actions anymore. So you've really got to manage what you're doing to manage the resources and build on the board to generate more resources. And then you want to build out, where you can turn those basic resources into advanced resources, because those are worth more generally. You're racing out into the market to complete market deliveries, I think they are, or developments, something like that. So I just really like the tight action economy space of Clans of Caledonia, and the expansion's just adding some more stuff, but more importantly, it's adding that Automa, whatever, solo mode, so I can finally play it by myself and don't need to worry about having people over who want to play it and want to learn it and then have to teach it. So Clans of Caledonia has been on my list ever since I first got it, and it's probably going to start to rise again once I get my hands on the expansion that should be here later this year. My number 28 was 34 last year, so it rose 6 spots, and I can only explain it through Pub Meeple because I don't even think I played it last year. Maybe once. It's Lacrimosa. It's a Mozart memory game, basically. You're a friend of Mozart remembering his past life and his building up his Lacrimosa, his final music piece. And this is another one of those games where it's just got a lot going on. It's kind of deck building. You're pulling more action cards into your deck. That way you can, weed out the beginning ones, and you're using those new actions for more powerful abilities, or maybe it lets you take double actions or collect double resources. Because each round you're going to spend 2 cards, one for the action and one for the end of round resource gain. So you balancing everything about what do I want for next round, along with what can I do this round. Just a unique concept of play, I think, as far as that goes. And the actions you're doing, again, are building up your cards. And there's separate card deck where you can generate income through, I forget what they're called, the concertos, or I don't remember. But there's some kind of set building over there because you can get points based off of walking around the board and collecting those specific one-time benefits or ongoing benefits, in-game scoring type things. And at the bottom of the board, there's like the area control section where you're going out and helping complete that Lacrimosa. A lot going on. I just really like the art, the concept, the theme to an extent. It doesn't super feel like Mozart, but the idea behind it I like, and I like Mozart's music, so I can put some Mozart on and just play it and enjoy it. Lacrimosa, my number 28. My number 27 was number 21 last year, so it fell as much as Lacrimosa rose, and here they meet next to each other. It is Clank, a deck-building adventure. It's one of 2 Clanks I played. I played Clank in Space. Spoiler alert, that does not appear on this list. I like the basic Clank more. Even though there's more going on in Clank in Space, I don't know. It just, I didn't like the changes as much as just the basic, I'm diving deep into this dungeon, trying to bring back goods, and get back out before I get injured too much by the sleeping dragon. I've got a few of the extra modules for this. I don't even think I've played any of them yet. So I really need to do that. I need to mix it up a little bit. But I like the base game fine enough. It's fun. It's easy to teach for people who like kind of semi strategic deck building. But most it's just push your luck. How deep are you going to go before you try to run out? And how much can your cards help you achieve that objective? So Clank deck building adventure I really enjoy. I really want to get my hands on the new one. Its name is escaping me right now, but that's the one where you build the board as you play. So that's a unique twist, and I feel like I'll like that one quite a bit too, unless it's got too much going on. And I've heard great things about the Clank Legacy. I do like a Legacy game. It's been a while since I played it. It's been a while since I had a group consistent enough to try to play one. But I like Clank and I like Legacy, so I really do want to get my hands on trying to play through that one. I've only heard good things, but so far I haven't played that one. My number 26 was number 25 last year, and I don't know if this is my favorite cooperative game. I haven't peeked ahead that far on the list, but it might be my favorite cooperative game still. I know there was a time other than pandemic where it was and still is an enjoyable cooperative dungeon dive. Again, it is Subterra, and this is a game where your group has fallen into the pit of a dungeon and you're basically going through looking for the exit and dodging all the horrors and the bad things that can happen along the way. such as cave-ins or floods and tremors, things like that. And basically it's just a big stack of tiles that you're playing out and building up the dungeon as you go and trying to find the exit, which is somewhere on the final 5, I think, tiles, and try to get your whole team out safely. I just really enjoy it. We always have fun playing it. It's always a new game because the board is in that changing state, which I just mentioned with the Clank thing. I want to try out that one because I really do enjoy that aspect of every game is different. So Subterra, just one of those games that has always sat kind of in the top 10 to 20 range, I think, and just fell from 25 to 26 right now. My number 25 favorite game of all time as of right now was number 9 last year, so falling out of the top 10. It's a game from what I'm pretty sure is my favorite designer, Stefan Feld. It's part of the Cities collection. It is Hamburg. Hamburg used to be Bruges. I've not played Bruges. I've been to the city Bruges. I love the city. I'd love to go back. Didn't play the game. Hamburg is basically Bruges with its add-ons with a couple of new tweaks and newly refined as part of the Queen Cities collection from Stefan Feld. Another of which is Cuzco behind me. I mentioned in a recent New to Me video. So in Hamburg, you've got 5, I think, cards of various colors, 6 colors. And based on the color of the card and how you use it, it's going to do different things for you. So multi-use cards, or I really should say cards that are used in multiple ways, because they're not really multi-use cards. If you use them for the building that the card is specifically, then they've only got that one use. But you could also use them as land to build buildings on, because you can't build a building without land. So one you place face down as a land, and then you can build a building on that land. Or you can turn it in to defend your city from the various threats that are coming from the dice rolls that you're taking. You can also turn them in to draft more helpers of that color. And it's all based on the shared dice pool about how powerful any of these actions are that you're doing. I just like the shared draft, not even draft dice pool, but the dice are just kind of dictating the action abilities of the 6 colors. The multi-purpose cards, whether you're using them for this or that or this or that. And the fact that you've only got 5 of them and there are 6 colors means you're always going to be missing at least one color of action regardless from round to round. And it's just a point salad, like a lot of stuff on Feld games are. Everything you do is going to help you get points in some way. And I just really like Hamburg. It's a lot of fun from my favorite designer, Stefan Feld. My number 24 favorite game as of right now has risen 17 spots. It was number 41 last year. And this is a game I got to the table again in a big group again and had a lot of fun with. And that's hard to do in my situation a lot. Usually I've got small groups at best. So it's rare that I can get up to 7 people to play a semi-cooperative game where there could be a traitor. This is Shadows over Camelot. I just really enjoy Shadows over Camelot. You're playing as one of the 7 Knights of the Round Table, going out around Camelot, doing various quests to try to complete the quest and earn victory for the team. And once you do that enough times, you've completed the Round Table's victory's worth, and you all celebrate a victory together in this cooperative game. Well, wait! There could be one player working against the group, the secret traitor, or there couldn't be. You don't know. And this secret traitor could be working to make the group fail. But they don't want to be too obvious about it, because if they get called out, that makes their task that much harder. But like any normal cooperative game, there are also just the game itself is working against you. Various things are going to make bad things happen regardless of the traitor aspect. So you might not even win if there is no traitor. It's just a fun game where you're working together or not, and accusing each other or not of hurting the group who's just trying to complete a bunch of quests. Whether you're facing the Black Knight or the Dragon, or you're going out and trying to get Excalibur from the Lady in the Lake, or you're trying to find the Holy Grail. A lot of good stuff going on in Shadows over Camelot, especially if you play in a group who's watched a lot of Monty Python. Just adds that aspect of bringing Monty Python into the story. So I just really like Shadows over Camelot. A great, fun, semi-cooperative game. My number 23, consistently, if I think I went back all 3 years, it would probably be right around this spot. It was number 18 last year, so 5 backwards. It was probably 25 the year before. It's one of those games that, when I think about it, I'm like, I don't like that game. And I mentioned this before. I don't like the game. I don't like random dice rolling games, but Space Base with no dice mitigation is just so much fun. You roll the dice, you take the actions of that dice from your board, and then your opponent rolls the dice, and you take the actions of that dice from right above your board, if you have something there. And the next player, next player, next player, and you're constantly doing something. It's constantly engaging. It's an easy game to teach to non-gamers because you're rolling dice, and then you're deciding whether you want to take each individual die or the combination of those 2 die from what you have on your board or in your space above the board. And then at the end of your turn, you're going to use your accumulated wealth to purchase another card to go into your base, to send what used to be in that base out to space. So that way, that card becomes valuable on your opponent's turns. And in the end, you're racing to 40 points. It's just a unique, fun, engine-building game that is always engaging. It plays pretty quick every time. I don't think I've had a game go more than an hour because the game just builds on itself. The more things you get into your base and out into space, the more often you're getting points and money to buy those bigger and better cards that are going to give you more points and more money as the game goes on. Just a fun, easy game that has everything I hate. Dice rolling. My number 23, Space Base. My number 22 might be the biggest riser on the list if you don't count new games that shoot from nowhere into the top 10. This one was number 45 last year. It's risen 23. I don't see anything else that's risen more than that. Right now, I don't know what's in my top 10 at the moment. I don't have that in front of me. But I can't imagine much has risen more than 23 spaces. And actually, this has jumped what I thought was my favorite from the Cities collection. This is Marrakesh, another Stefan Feld game from the Queen Cities collection. And Marrakesh is the original, the new game so far, I think. There might be one other new city game, but most of them are just reworks of the old games. Marrakesh was newly created by Stefan Feld. It's a game where there's just a bunch going on. You've got 12 little cube Keshi things. Each round, you're going to pick 3 of them of different colors. And those are going to dictate your actions you're going to take from your player board. From the 9, I think, because 3 of them do the same thing. Different actions you can take. So the colors you choose are going to be the actions you choose. But everybody's Keshis are going to go into this tower random, where some of them might get stuck. And everybody's colors are coming out. And then you're going to take turns drafting from whatever came out. So you might get 2 of one color instead of just 1, because somebody else put that color in 2, or it got knocked out from a previous round. And then you're going to put them into those spots on the board to fill them out. And eventually you're going to score points if you can fill them all up. But every action you take in the spot, depending on the number of Keshis that are collected in that spot, makes that action more powerful. So you're building powerful actions for yourself based on what you're drafting or what you're giving up. You could be neglecting certain actions. And you're managing your resources, your dates, your water, your money. Because at the end of every round, you're going to have to feed the troops, so to speak, those items, or you're going to lose points. It's just a lot of fun. A lot of things going on. It could be a little confusing to teach, but it's just 4 or 5 rounds, three maybe, of 4 phases of taking 3 actions based on the 12 different colored Keshi. And I just really enjoy it. The randomness, the excitement of drafting the right Keshi to do the thing you really want to do at an even better power than expected. So, just a lot of fun. Marrakesh, what might be now my favorite Stefan Feld Cities collection game. Number 21 was number 17 last year, so fallen just a little bit. And that is one of my favorite bag building games, Altiplano. The game with the llama, the little llama, first player marker. It doesn't do anything. It's not a llama, it's an alpaca. And it just looks so cute. First player marker, little alpaca. You move it around, boom, first player marker. Love it. But the alpaca tokens, I don't know what they represent. They represent alpacas. But they also represent your action tokens. And that's what this game is. It's a deck build or bag building game where you're drafting tokens out of the bag, putting them on the board, and then using them to get more tokens into your bag to do more actions. And there's a bunch of different tokens, wealth tokens, goods tokens, alpaca tokens with different abilities. And much like its predecessor, its comparison constantly, the reason people don't like Altiplano is because Orleans was better. We'll see. I like Altiplano too, also. And the one thing I like about Altiplano more than Orleans is the fact that you've got to go to the locations to do the action you want to do. In Orleans, you place your tokens, and then you do the action. You place the tokens, you do the action. And that's fine. It's fun. I like Orleans. You'll probably see it later in the list. But Altiplano, you can't always do the actions you want to do if you don't have the travel ability. Each round you can only travel once unless you've built up travel cubes. So you need to spend travel cubes to do multiple actions around the board. And that's just that extra little layer of thought that goes into the game. And that's why, despite the fact that, Orleans probably did it better, Altiplano is different and fun too, and gives me that different flavor that I like. And that's why Altiplano's always hovered around just behind Orleans. Getting into the top half of the list and my top 20 favorite games of all time at this point is another old favorite that I just enjoy playing. It's a bit tough to teach, but not terrible. But that's one of the people always mention about it. It's got too much iconography, it makes it hard to teach. It's Race for the Galaxy. In this game, you're using your hand of cards to build your tableau to score points. And the game ends once you have a certain number of cards in your tableau into your galaxy, because every card is a planet. I think 16, well, it might be 12. It's been a while since I played this one. Or when all the points are taken out of the point pile that you start with based on player count. And the thing I like about Race for the Galaxy is twofold. First, you're going to play a phase card. There are 4 or 5 different phases you can play, and you're only going to play the ones that players have chosen to play. So if everybody chooses to play phase 1, then you're only all doing phase 1. And for each player who plays a certain phase, they're going to get a bonus action of that phase, such as phase 1 is, I think, the draw cards phase. And if you're the one who chose to play phase 1, or one of the ones that chose to play it, you'll all draw like an extra card or whatever. I don't remember offhand again. It's been a little while since I played it. And then you'll move on and do phase 2 if somebody chose to do phase 2, which I think is play a certain planet card to the board. But the unique thing about this game is the cards in your hand are also your currency. So to afford that planet you want to play out, if it costs 4, that means you've got to discard 4 cards to play it. Unless you've got discounts already out on the board, because this is a bit of an engine builder. So maybe on the board, I've already got a -2 discount for the circle cards. So then when I play that 4 circle card, it really only costs me 2, because I've already got a 2 discount. So then I only discard 2 cards as payment, and I can keep the rest. So it's balancing those cards you want to play and build with, along with the fact that you need enough cards that you're willing to discard to build them. It's just unique, fun, enjoyable game. I just really love Race for the Galaxy. I need to get back to the table so it stops drifting downward. Again, this is another one that probably just lack of play. Again, I think it's probably been over a year since I've got this one to the table. but thinking about it, I really enjoy Race for the Galaxy. My number 19 used to be in my top 5, then my top 10, and then my top 15 at number 15 last year. Now it's at number 19. And it's probably going to continue to drift as I play more and more games that I enjoy that do similar things better. Engine building, card collection, bonus matching, birds. Maybe I won't play a bird game I like better than Wingspan. Wingspan, just a game that everybody enjoys. It's easy to teach. It's got a neat theme, I guess, even though like nobody really thinks of bird watching as a theme. If I were to say, you don't want to come play my bird watching game. But it looks good enough on the table that when people see what's going on over there with those eggs and those birds and those cubes, you can be like, well, let me show you. And then they enjoy it. The engine building game where you're putting birds out into one of 3 zones and then activating an action. And then you're going to activate the zone or every bird in that zone that has a when activated effect to generate more eggs because you need eggs to build birds, or more food because you need food to feed birds, i.e. pay for them to get them into your habitat, or collect cards because you do need cards to have cards to play. So it's just a neat game. You've played it. I'm not going to go on about it. Wingspan, number 19 right now. I haven't played Wormspan. I'm not interested. I've seen a little bit about the gameplay. I'm sure it's different enough. I'm not going to say I won't play it if somebody has it and it's there, but I'm not interested in playing it because I have Wingspan. I like Wingspan. I don't need Wormspan. I don't need Finspan. I haven't even looked into that. I saw the cover, saw that it was yet another Wingspan game coming out in 2024, the second one, and I blew it off. I apologize if it is worth looking into. I don't care. I don't care about fish. I have Wingspan. So that's what I'm going to say about my number 19, Wingspan. Number 18, Rose 4, and is, I believe, my favorite Garfield game. I think it's everybody's favorite Garfield game, if I remember correctly, from Dice Tower, which I think has the most viewers and voters. So I apologize if there are others out there that have better, more viewer count. But I believe Raiders of the North Sea was also the highest voted Dice Tower People's Choice game. And well deservedly. Even though I think that I like other Garfield games more, and I might once I play them more, Raiders is always the one I feel like pulling out and playing. Because it's workers placement, it's Vikings, it's worker placement, pool worker placement. And I think it was the first one to introduce that mechanic where you place a worker and you do an action, but then you pull a different worker and you do that action too. And once you compile enough raiders and resources and things, you go venturing out further and further up, and you go raiding, and you bring back better rewards and better workers, because that's where the strongest workers are hidden, is out on those raids. So if you want to get the stronger workers into play, you've got to go out there and get them. But as soon as you play them, remember, it stays on the board and some other player can retrieve it. So just because you're the one who picked it up doesn't mean that's your worker. Raiders is so much fun. Raiders of the North Sea, if I didn't ever say the full name. Great worker placement design. Great, almost Ameritrash design, because you're going out raiding and fighting, and occasionally you're using dice even to help you make your raiders stronger. They've got powers, they've got abilities. It's a little bit of a game where you can take that other players with some of them. When you take the discard them for their action, that could disrupt other workers. There's a couple expansions added. I've only got one of the 2 so far, where you get more. I'm not sure about the leaders one. I think it is. That's the one I don't have, but I do have the one with the mead, which is just an extra resource, an extra way to score points. I just enjoy Raiders of the North Sea at number 18 and slowly creeping. It'll probably just hang out in this area if I were to guess. My number 17 somehow was number 19 last year. I thought it was in my top 10. Must have been 2 years ago. Doesn't feel like I've had that game this long, but I guess I have because I just got season 3 of Final Girl. My favorite solo-only game. So I guess I would say it's the best solo-only game so far. I like the theme. I like horror as a theme. I'm not one who necessarily goes out and like I must see horror movies, but I like the theme of horror. I like fighting bad, I guess. And that's basically what you're doing in this game is you're the final girl trying to survive whatever horror predicament it is. And the thing about Final Girl is if you have all the stuff like I do, it's mathematically possible, but I don't know what the number is currently for having all the things for this game at this point. It's an exponential number, and as soon as they make season 4, it'll be even that much more exponential. But basically, this game is you need to have the core box, the core movie gameplay of cards and dice and things like that. And then you need to have at least one, I always forget what they're called, video story book, whatever. And that's going to include one bad guy and 2 different final girls with their own unique powers and a location map. So you need a location map, you need a bad guy board, you put them side by side, you use your setup cards to set it up, and then you play. You're using your card actions and then rolling the dice to make sure they succeed or what level they succeed or fail. Because like a horror movie, maybe you're not going to succeed. Maybe this is a bad movie for you and the final girl doesn't get out. And I'm fine with that. Usually I'm not fine with rolling dice, random luck, but I'm fine with it in this game because I just like feeling like I'm in the story of this final girl. It's not me losing, it's her losing. And it's the movie that I'm seeing in my head of, wow, how did she trip over that? Why did she go upstairs when she should have went out the front door? We've all been there in horror movies. And in this game, you can mix and match exponentially, like I mentioned earlier. Every storybook I have has 2 final girls and 1 bad guy and 1 location. And I've got, 6 or 7 different stories times 3 that can be mixed and matched. So maybe I've got the girl from Friday the 13th in the house for Poltergeist. I just recently played this take on the Saw franchise where the little victims that you're trying to save are getting caught in the traps and the bad guy's not even on the board until the end of the game. So you're just going through the warehouse and trying to free victims from the traps, just like in the 10 or 11 Saw movies. And that is my favorite horror franchise. I think I mentioned it when I talked about playing that game at one point. So I like that franchise, and I enjoyed playing through that story, the story of Saw in Final Girl. I've rambled on about this. My number 17 is Final Girl. My number 16 was number 35 last year. Risen a whole bunch. Again, inexplicably, other than every time I think about this game, I want to play it, whether I play it or not. It's a game that is colorful but black. It's The Magnificent. In The Magnificent, you are taking from a shared dice pool 1 die at a time to perform 4 actions in a round for 3 rounds. And there are only 3 actions you can take. You're either traveling around the circus, it's circus themed, traveling around the circus, collecting gems and circus tents to hold performances. And you can get various acts during that action as well to add to your potential performances. But you also need to have circus areas, circus tent areas, I think they are. There's 3 different colors of 2 different types, a large and a small tent, I guess. And those performances require you to have those specific combinations in your circus area of your player board. So you need to collect those. So if I use an orange die, with a low number I can get a small orange tent. But if I use, a couple orange die, because you're going to add on, if like my first turn I take an orange die, my second turn I take an orange die, my third turn I take an orange die, I get to add those together on top of each other for already being on my board. So I could end up, with a high count if the orange dice are available to me, come the third or fourth action of a round. And then the final action you can take is to put on the performances, because now you've got the tents set up, you've got the performances, and then you're going to basically use an action to perform and collect income and money, or points. I mean, income is money, and collect those points you need to win. And that's kind of what you're doing. You're just trying to have the most points at the end of the game. And then at the end of each round, you're drafting new helper items that you can send helpers to kind of help you, obviously, increase certain actions or abilities. And each new action card you're going to draft has a scoring condition for each round, but also it has just a little bit of an ability on it as well. So you can place like an orange die on a action card that gives you +2 to orange die. You get that +2 to orange die, but you only use that once. So your 4 action cards are going to determine, your special kind of action points as well. And you're going to draft a new one of those every round and turn one in for its points based on how you've worked towards that at the end of each round too. It's a neat, tight game where it's a 2-page rule book, I think, because there's really not a lot to it, but it offers such a level of thought, complexity, tight action management, dice drafting, action selection cards, managing, those end of round scoring conditions, so that way you can score them at the right time in the best way. The Magnificent, I don't think it's talked about enough. It's such a good game, to the point where I've worked on creating my own solo mode, because the one in the game just says play the game by yourself and try to get 200 points, which is pretty hard. I think my best score is like 202. So I've been working on one where it feels like a 2-player game, and they're drafting dice away and cards away and things like that, just to give it a feel of an actual opponent and a more realistic scoring, scenario. That's how much I like the Magnificent. It's to the point where I'm trying to make it so I can play it more. My number 15 was number 23 last year, so it rose 8 spots. Again, inexplicably. I haven't played this one in a while either. But I guess because I've played Dune Imperium, and I didn't want Dune Imperium. I don't know. I think I went in prejudice against Dune Imperium because I like some of these other games more. This is Lost Ruins of Arnak, by the way. A similar style of game where you're drafting cards and placing workers, and you're racing up the archaeology track or whatever it's called. You're gathering resources. You're using card abilities to give you more abilities. And this is a game where you're just trying to stretch your actions as much as you can. I think you only get 2 workers. And then you've got your cards. And you need to manage your turn actions. If you're not doing it well, then you're not going to do well. You really need to turn your abilities into more abilities and really try to stretch things out. I played with the Leaders expansion, which gives everybody their own individual play style or things they do, the variable setup. And there's a campaign mode, I think, which has a good solo campaign. I don't have that one. I need to check it out because I've only heard good things about that as well. But again, this is one I just haven't played in a long time, but because of the similar to it games I've played, it brings it up when I'm on Pub Meeple going, yeah, I really do like that game too. And I just need to get it back to the table. My number 14 is the second new to the list one from this section of the list. And it is Newton, a game that showed up, obviously, in my favorite, new to me games from the year. If it's risen this high in my favorite games of all time, obviously it would have been on that list. It is Newton. Did I say that already? Newton, another game where you're card actions. You're playing the card to the board to take the action of that type. I think there's 5 or 6 different actions you can take in the game, and you can only take that action if you play that action card. But then it's going to sit there on the board through each round, or through that round, I guess, because you're going to play, I think, 4 actions in a round. So if you got enough action cards that you really want to take the same action that many times, the first time you're going to get the 1 power of it, but then the 2, and then the 3, and then you get a power 4 of that action because you've got that action displayed in front of you 4 times now. It's a game where you're kind of racing up different tracks towards different benefits to be the first one there, or towards in-game objectives. Some of the tracks literally have points on them where if you can leave one of your little cubes behind there, you're going to score in-game for that one. But otherwise, usually they're just going to give you like chaining actions in some cases. Like if I'll go, 2 points on this track because that's the action I took, and I get to the spot where it says, now do this action, then you can, chain and do that action. You're going around, as Isaac Newton, I guess, around the city, and you can race to certain city spots to score those cities, or just collect the little tokens along the way and be the only one to achieve that. Or you're going up different thought tracks, I think they are. Or you can build up your library on your player board and just score by creating, the complex library in front of you as well. Just a lot of neat things in an action selection kind of track movement game. I've just really enjoyed playing Newton this year for the first time. Another game I've enjoyed playing a bunch, and people I play with enjoy playing it a bunch. It's Heat, Pedal to the Metal. It was number 14 last year, number 13 this year. Same. I just enjoy playing this one. It's a deck management game because you're starting out with your deck, and if you play the base game, you've all got the same deck of cards, and you're racing. It's literally a race game that feels like a race. You're using those cards to move. You're changing gears to move more or less, because as you go around curves, you really need to slow down, or else you could spin out, and that's really going to hurt you on a race. Obviously, you want to be moving, not moving. And it's just managing those cards, and more importantly, managing the heat, because you start with a stack of heat, and you can use heat to move faster or get out of, spinning out. But once you've played it, it goes in your discard pile, and then you've got to shuffle it back in your hand, and it becomes filler at that point, unless you can use cooldown actions to put it, back in your engine to use in the future. So this game's really all about managing how much and when you use those heat, so that way you can make the push to win the race at the end. Heat, Pedal to the Metal, I have not met anybody who didn't enjoy this if they played it. And even though it's pretty Ameritrash-ish, it's just a lot of fun to me. My number 12 favorite game of all time as of right now was number 29 last year. Moved up 17 spots, and I can't explain why again. Another one of those games where I just like it, click yes. I like it, click yes on Pub Meeple. Or maybe just got favorable matchups. I don't know. But it is Troyes. I'm not French. I always mispronounce it. Maybe I don't mispronounce it. I think I do. Whatever. This is a game where you've got a pool of dice that you're using, and you're putting them out in the city for anybody to use. Yes, you've got your dice, but you might not, because you can pay other players and then steal one of their die, or two of their die, or three of their die. And that helps you, sure, if people, pay you for your die, but then you've got less die, and then you got to pay them to use their die or pass. And you're using those dice to take different actions in different sections of the board to do different things, earn money, fight off the threats, do other random things, depending on what it is, help build the castle or cathedral or whatever it is. But again, I mentioned the threats, but every round a new threat's going to come out, and it's going to make things harder specifically for the first player to begin with, but sometimes for everybody, or for a specific person if it's a threat that really goes after what that person had been doing. And so do you work together to defeat certain threats that are kind of pestering everybody, or do you let that guy deal with that threat? It's neat 4-round game of dice drafting, dice selection, and point scoring. I enjoyed the game. I've enjoyed this game every time I played it. It is quite a thinky game in managing things. Everybody's got a secret objective, but everybody's going to score everybody's objectives. but you know what your objective is, and if you played the game, you know what all the objectives are. One's have the most money, one's have the most this, have the most that, those type of things. So like you can pick up on what people have based on kind of how they're playing, and maybe like, okay, this guy is seriously collecting money, so I'm going to start collecting money too, so I can at least score the second place points on his card. I like that concept. I like the management and the action, the card drafting actions, and it's just a nice, thinky Euro game that I think people talk about, but not a lot. And so number 12, Number 11 is a new to me game. Obviously, if you've been keeping track, I said there were 3 on this list, and we're at the last game that'll be on this list. So. But do you know what it is? I'm about to tell you. It's Jiangnan, Life of Gentry. I've mentioned it a lot throughout the last year. I think I first played it back last January or February, and I played it 3 or 4 more times throughout the year with people, mostly solo. But Jiangnan, Life of Gentry is just another one of those games where it's got a little bit of everything going on, starting with a bit of bag building. Everybody starts with the same action tiles in their bags. You're gonna pull 4 out in 1, 2, 3, 4, and put them on your player board, and then you're gonna choose one of those actions from your player board and do that action. Send one of your 3 action workers out to the main board and do one of the 6 actions on the board. But secondly, the furthest right action cube, that action tile that's on your board, is going to go away, gone from the game, never to be seen again. But you're going to get whatever resource that it is that is on the bottom half of it. So you get something from it. So you're managing, what action do I want to take versus what resource do I want to get? And more importantly, what action tile do I not want to lose? Like, I need to take this action just because I know I want to take this action in the future. Or maybe this is my last get new actions action I have, so I can't lose it. That's all actually. At the end of every round, you're going to buy new action cubes. But maybe that action's not available on the board for sale, so you don't want to lose it. This is the last, tea party action. It's not tea party, tea shop action, and you really want the tea shop action, and none are available for you right now to get new ones. So I have to protect that if nothing else. So now I've got to take the tea action, and you're just going around, you're taking the actions, and in the end, you're artists, and so you're either using drama ideas, is I think what they're called, drama ideas, to collect points, collect enough drama ideas, and then you can turn in your main drama portfolio, I think they're what they're called, or writing, or just painting, art, whatever. They're 3 different colors: red, yellow, and blue, and you need to collect the ideas enough to submit for that final I think it's portfolios. But you can go to places that give you helpers. You go to places to collect things. You go to places to turn in portfolios. And in the end, at the end of every round, you're going to place your mini workers onto the boats at the bottom of wherever your workers went. And there's an area control aspect. And that area control aspect is going to determine who decides the round scoring at the end of every round. And then once they cycle back in, they're going to become in-game scoring objectives. And whoever has the majority on each boat for in-game scoring scores 4 points for every time they had blue portfolios, and then whoever's second most on that boat gets 2 points per each one they did that. And every other player, they don't score anything for that objective, even if they got people on the boat. So you're managing worker placement, you're managing action tiles, you're managing resources, you're managing area control of things you really need to make sure, like, I don't even want to take this action, but I need to get another worker into that boat because I'm going to score a lot as long as I have the majority in the game scoring. So I need to send a worker there so I can get another little worker on the boat and protect it, or get into it to begin with, or whatever the case is. There's just so much thinky, thought, fun, action selection, worker placement, area control, you name it. It's except for dice rolling. There are no dice in Jiangnan, Life of Gentry. My number 11 favorite game as of right now. And there you have it. That's my 30 to 11 favorite games of all time. Join me again on the 28th of February for my top 10. in celebration of my 3rd year anniversary of the channel. It hasn't grown as much as I had hoped, but I do appreciate all 300 and whatever subscribers and everybody who's ever viewed any of my content. And if you want to be one of those people who know about my future videos, subscribe, ring the bell, do those below things that you do to get those notifications. I think next week is not this list because I'm pretty sure whenever this video drops, I don't have the calendar in front of me as I'm filming. I've got a different video in mind, but the 28th for sure. My top 10 favorites. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Comment below what your 30 through 11 are, or what you thought about how bad or good my list was. I'm a small enough channel, I can read them all, so I do appreciate your feedback. And I look forward definitely to seeing you next time.